Welcome back, young explorers, to a brand new adventure on The Explainer. Today, we're traveling way back in time to follow the epic journey of Jacob. Get ready, because we are about to explore a world filled with grand journeys, amazing promises, and a story literally so big it changed history forever. Let's get right into it. Okay, let's dive into this. Imagine camping out under a sparkling night sky thousands of years ago. Our explainer today is packed with buried treasures. Well, actually, scratch that. It's more like buried idols, along with mysterious new names and ancient promises from God. So buckle up, because we're hitting the dusty trails of the ancient Middle East. So here we go with Act 1, the cleanup and the call. Right, so God told Jacob to pack up his whole family, move to Beit-El, and build an altar. He wanted Jacob to return to the exact same spot where God had appeared to him years before. You remember, back when Jacob was running away from his brother Esav. But, before heading to such a holy place, Jacob knew they had to get completely ready. He gave his family 3 steps. First, get rid of the foreign gods. Second, purify yourselves. And third, put on fresh clothes. And his family? They absolutely listened. They handed over all their foreign idols, and even the earrings they were wearing. Jacob took the whole shebang and buried it deep in the dirt, right under a pistachio tree near the town of Shechem. They were totally leaving their old ways behind. And then, as they packed up their tents and hit the road, something totally amazing happened. A terror from God fell upon the cities all around them. The neighboring cities were so freaked out by God's power that nobody even thought about chasing or bothering the sons of Jacob. It's like God put a glowing, protective force field right around the entire family as they traveled. So they safely arrived at Luz, over in the land of Canaan. Jacob decided to give it a new name, Beit-El. There, he built an altar and names the place El Beit-El, which literally means God of Beit-El. And why? Well, because this was the exact spot where God was revealed to him when he was fleeing from his brother all those years ago. He wanted to make absolutely sure they worshipped God, and God alone. And that brings us to a massive turning point in our explainer. Act 2, a new name, Israel. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is what happens next. After Jacob arrived from Padan Aram, God appeared to him once again with this unbelievable message. God speaks directly to him and says, "Your name is Jacob, but you will be called Jacob no longer. Your name will be Israel." Talk about a game changer. This was the dawn of a completely new identity. He wasn't just Jacob anymore. From this second on, he was Israel. But listen, God didn't just stop with a new name. He introduced himself as El Shaddai, God Almighty. He commanded Israel to be fruitful and multiply. God promised that a whole nation, actually a group of nations, and even kings, would descend from him. Plus, God promised to give Israel the very same land he'd given to his grandfather Abraham and his father Isaac. I mean, that is a spectacular, forever kind of promise. So after God went up from him, Israel wanted to make absolutely sure he marked this incredibly holy spot. He set up a standing stone, like a giant rock pillar, right exactly where God had spoken to him. He poured out a special drink offering and some precious oil right on top of it. It was his way of honoring God and saying, "I am never, ever going to forget what happened here in Beit-El." Our journey continues now into Act 3, trusting God through sadness. Even on the most epic adventures, there are some really difficult moments. First, Rebekah's beloved nurse, Devorah, passed away. She was buried below Beit-El under an oak tree, which they named Alan Bahut, meaning the oak of weeping. And the sadness didn't stop there. As they traveled away from Beit-El, just before they arrived in Ephrat, Israel's beloved wife Rachel went into really hard labor. The midwife tried to comfort her, telling her she was having another son. But tragically, Rachel passed away in childbirth. As she was dying, she named her new baby Ben-Oni, which means son of my grief. But his father, Israel, wanting to show incredible strength and totally trust in God's promises, changed the baby's name to Binyamin, meaning son of the right hand. To honor Rachel, Israel set up another standing stone, this time right on her grave. The source text tells us this pillar marked Rachel's resting place on the way to Ephrat, which we also know as Beit-Lechem, and it actually remained known as the standing stone of Rachel's grave to this day. Then Israel had to pack up his tent and bravely continue his travels to the other side of Migdal Eladar. Now, while living in that land, another tough event happened in the family. The text notes that Reuven, the oldest son, made a grave mistake by sleeping with Bilhah, his father's concubine, and Israel definitely heard all about it. It was just a very serious, heavy moment in the family's history. let's move on and see how this builds into our next grand chapter, Act 4, The 12 Sons. So, out of all this travel, all the joy and all the sorrow, a mighty family was being built exactly like God promised. These are the 12 sons of Jacob born to him in Padan Aram, who would eventually become the leaders of the great tribes. From Leah, we've got Reuven, Shimon, Levi, Yehuda, Yisachar, and Zvulun. From Rachel came Yosef and little Binyamin. From Bilhah came Dan and Naphtali, and from Zilpah came Gad and Asher. Guys, God's promise of a great nation was literally walking right there on the grass. And this brilliantly illustrates just how far they've come. Look at this map. They started near Shechem, burying those old idols. Then they moved down to Bethel, where Israel built the altar and got his brand new name. Next, they traveled through Ephrat, where they sadly had to say goodbye to Rachel. And finally, step 4, heading toward Mamre and Hebron, they were finally going home. And that brings us to our final chapter, Act 5, saying goodbye to Isaac. After all his travels, Jacob finally came home to his father Isaac. He arrived at Mamre near Kiryat Arba, also known as Hebron. This was the very place where his father Isaac and his grandfather Abraham had lived as foreigners for so many years. And guess how old Isaac was? 180 years old. To put that into perspective, that's almost 2 centuries. Isaac lived an incredibly long and full life to see his son return home. The source text tells us that Isaac breathed his last, died, and was gathered to his people. He was an old man, completely full of years. And in just a really beautiful moment of peace under the starry night sky and glowing clouds, his 2 sons, Esav and Jacob, came together to bury their father. The brothers who had once been bitter enemies were finally reunited at the very end. So the crucial point is right here. Let's look at our food for thought from Genesis 35. First up, purify your life. Just like Jacob commanded his household to remove their idols, we can leave our bad habits behind and get ready to draw closer to God. Second, worship God only. When Jacob did this, God restored him and confirmed his awesome new identity as Israel. And third, trust his faithfulness, because even when there was deep grief and sadness, God's massive promises endured perfectly. It's a brand new day, so I want to leave you with this final thought. How will you trust God's promises in your own grand adventure? Thank you so much for coming on this amazing journey with me on The Explainer today. Click the bell button, like, share, and subscribe.